Hello everybody, and today we are going to be working on a new math standard. It's part of the Common Core State Standards, and this is the standard we're going to be working on today. The standard states that a solid figure which can be packed without gaps or overlaps using n unit cubes is said to have a volume of n cubic units. So with the standard, students will practice estimating and finding volume, and they'll count cubes and write the volume of each shape in cubic units. The learning targets for the standard are to identify volume as an attribute of a solid figure, to recognize that a cube with 1 unit side length is 1 cubic unit of volume, and to explain how to find the volume of a figure. So you may be wondering, how is finding the volume relevant? What is relevant about volume? Well, we know that volume is a foundational measurement, and it has obvious and endless real-world applications. We also know that volume can be used to illustrate properties of multiplication. Along with all of this, it's important that you and the student understand some vocabulary terms that relate to the standard so you're able to solve the problems. So the first term that you should familiarize yourself with is volume, and volume is the measurement of the amount of space contained in a solid figure or taken up by a liquid or a gas. So in order to measure volume, first you need to determine a unit of volume. Determining the volume of a space is equal to finding how many standard cubic units it takes to fill that space. So then you need to know the term unit. A unit is a reference value of a quantity used to measure or compare other values of the same quantity. So then you also need to know the term units of measurement. And some units of measurement, for example, could be, if you're measuring length, you could use 1 meter. If you're measuring weight, you could use 1 kilogram. If you're using capacity, you could say 1 liter. If you're measuring temperature, you could say 1 degree Celsius. And if you're measuring time, you could say 1 minute or 1 second. Those are just a few examples of units of measurements that you could use. The next term that you need to familiarize yourself with is cube. A cube is a solid figure that has 6 square faces. So for example, this would be a cube, as you can see. So we're going to count the faces. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this would be a cube. The next term that you need to know, and the last term, is cubic unit. A cubic unit is a unit for measuring volume. So all 6 faces of a cubic unit are square. So as we see, all 6 faces of this are equal to a square, as you can see. All 12 edges are 1 unit in length. So since those are the terms and a little bit about the standard and volume, we have a sample problem we're going to work over together. So the problem says, some units have already been placed in this box. So the first question is, how many unit cubes can fit into the box? Then we want to know, what is the volume of the box? So here's the problem. That some units have already been placed in this box. How many unit cubes can fit into the box, and what is the volume of the box? So here's the box. We see that we have, the box is 4 units this way, 3 units this way, and 2 units this way. So we're going to go over 2 different solution strategies that we can use and students can use to solve this problem and find the volume of the box. So the first strategy that students can use and we can help our students use and identify is their multiplication facts. So the main thing to know is that volume has a formula. Volume of a shape is equal to length times width times the height. So now that we know that the formula of volume is length times width times height, we can simplify this and go look at our box. So we know that the length of the box is 4 units. See, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can come back down here and put 4 times, now let's see what the width is. We know that this is the width. It says the width is 3, so we can see 1, 2, 3. So we'll come back down here and write 3 times the height. The height is 1, 2 units. So we come back down here and we have 4 times 3 times 2. we're going to start with 4 times 3, which we know is 12. And then we're going to bring down the 2 with it. Next, students can do 12 times 2 and get 24. So we know that the volume is 24, and we need to have a unit of measurement. The unit of measurement for this volume would be cubic units. So the volume that we found is 24 cubic units. Another way that students could use the multiplication facts is instead of doing 4 times 3 first, they could do 3 times 2 first and bring down 4. And we know that 3 times 2 is 6. Here's where students are going to need to do 6 times 4 though. And students should know that 6 times 4 is equal to 24. And then you have to put your unit of measurement, cubic units. So that's one way students can use multiplication facts to solve it. And another way is here. Either way, students should end up with 24 cubic units as the volume for this. So when we decide the student doesn't want to use multiplication facts to solve the problem, they're unsure of what to do, they don't know the multiplication facts, there is another way that students can solve the problem. So students can use these snap cubes that I showed you earlier that represented a cube, and they can build the cube that is in the picture. So they would start by having, we know that it's 4 units in length. So you can get out 4 snap cubes and connect them for length. So students can do this, and you can do it with your student, helping them. So 4 units in length, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we know it's 3 units in width. So we can grab 3 more, and we can build. So we know we're already at 1, 2, 3. So we didn't need this one for that because we are now 3 units in width. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 for the length, and 1, 2, 3 for the width. We also know that the box is 2 units high. So we already have it 1 unit high, so we only need 1 more. So we would just build a cross for 2 units high. So we now have 1, 2, 3, 4 units in length, and we have 1, 2, 3 units in width, and 1, 2 in height. So now that we have all this, the students can fill in the gaps. So they just want to go across and do the length on the other side to make it 4 units on both sides. So now both sides are 4 units in length. And we can also do a cross, so we can add another cube in between these two. So now students have 3 and 3 for the width. And now students need to build up, and they need to fill in these gaps because we want it to be a full box. Because we want to see how many unit cubes can fit into the box. So so far I have 4 units in length, 3 in width, and 2 right here in height. But I have filled in the middle of this, which is still 4 units in length. So now what we can do is, you want to just go up the 2 unit for the height everywhere. So I'm just filling in every area to make it 2 units of height. So now that we have that, to find the volume, all students need to do is count the number of cubes present. So by doing so, all they need to do is count this face, the top face of it, and the bottom face of it. So we'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Flip it over. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So now we know that 24 unit cubes can fit into this box. We also know that the volume of the box is 24 cubic units. And since the question asks how many unit cubes can fit into the box, that is the same thing as what is the volume of the box, like I mentioned earlier. So when you're working with your student or your child, you can help build blocks like this to match the picture and have them count it out to be able to solve the problem if they do not know the multiplication facts. You can also show them that we have length, we have width, and we also have height in a three-dimensional shape. So with that, you could say we have the length, which is, count it, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you could say we have the width, which is what? 1, 2, 3. And we also have the height, which is 1, 2. So now you can help students identify that we have 4 times 3 times 2. And that's how you can also get 24 cubic units for the volume. Also want to go into some misconceptions or misunderstandings that students may have or your child may have so that we can get that out of the way so we can help them with understanding volume. So the deception of adding and multiplying unit squares can be a big misconception for students when dealing with things such as volume and area. Students often have misinterpretations on the appropriate use of operations of addition and multiplication. So we want to make sure that when we are talking about volume with our student, we are helping them understand when to use multiplication and when to use addition and the problems to help them get the volume. Students might have a misunderstanding of what volume is. Students often associate the term volume to the sound on a computer, TV or radio. So we need to define volume in a way that will help the students understand what we are talking about and what we want them to do. So we could tell them that, what is volume and how can we define it? We can define it as volume is a measurement of the amount of space an object or substance takes up. So you and I, we both take up an amount of space in a specific amount. And so does every 3D object around us. Like this pencil takes up a specific amount of space. These blocks that we did earlier take up a specific amount of space, which happen to be 24 cubic units. So we can see that we can help our students identify what technically is volume in the specific way that we are talking about it. Thank you for watching the video. I hope that you have a better understanding on volume and how to help your student or child with any kind of questions they have with volume.